They say the woods are quiet at night, that if you stop and listen, you'll hear the stillness breathe. The rustle of branches, the sigh of trees bending to wind, the distant howl of some nameless animal. They call it peaceful, untouched, sacred even, but they don't tell you everything. Stand at the tree line long enough, and you start to notice it. The way the darkness settles too thick in certain places, the way the wind dies too quickly, leaving an unnatural stillness behind. A quiet that doesn't feel like peace. It feels like waiting. It feels like something listening. Out here, deep in the Appalachian wilderness, people vanish. Not in the way you'd expect. Not like city folk who wander off trail, not like careless hikers who ignore the warnings. These disappearances don't leave behind frantic calls for help or scattered supplies. No search parties find footprints leading to the edge of a ravine. No broken branches. No scraps of torn clothing. No bloodstains left to piece together a story. Nothing. Just silence. And that silence is what unsettles the most. It's as if the forest itself swallows every trace, erasing them like they were never there to begin with. The official reports, when they exist at all, offer little explanation. Some chalk it up to wild animals. Others blame the unpredictable terrain. And of course, there are always the convenient excuses. A wrong turn, an accident, an unfortunate misstep. But the locals? The ones who have lived in these hills for generations? They know better. Ask them about the missing, and their expressions will darken. Their voices will lower. They'll glance over their shoulders as if making sure something isn't listening. Some will wave you off, pretend not to understand. But others, the ones who have seen more than they care to admit, they'll tell you the truth. Not in direct words, not in confessions, but in warnings. These mountains don't forget. The trees have eyes. Some doors, once opened, can never be shut. At first, you might think they're just superstitions, the kind of folklore passed down over campfires, kept alive by the need to explain the unexplainable. But then, you start hearing the stories. Stories of figures moving between trees faster than the eye can track, of voices calling out from the dark, mimicking the exact tone and pitch of a loved one's voice, right down to the last syllable. Of footsteps circling tents in the dead of night, too heavy to be a deer, too measured to be a bear. And then there are the stories of the ones who made it back. Barely. One man, a seasoned hunter, found himself lost on familiar land. Not lost in the way one loses direction, but lost in a way that made no sense. The trail was gone. The trees looked different. The air felt wrong. He swore he had only turned his head for a second, only glanced behind him when he heard something rustle in the brush. And then, he was somewhere else. Hours passed in seconds. The sun, which had been high in the sky, had melted into dusk. He stumbled his way back to the main road, panting, shaking, but when he tried to retrace his steps the next day, his footprints were gone, as if he had never been there at all. Another account tells of a woman who had grown up in these hills, who knew the trails better than most. One evening, she heard her brother calling her name from the edge of the tree line. The problem was, her brother had been dead for 7 years. Then there are the voices. Whispers that drift through the branches when the night is at its deepest, too low to make out, too distant to be real. But if you listen closely, if you dare to linger, you realize something chilling. They're getting closer. Some say these beings, whatever they are, have been here longer than us. That they walk the land as if it belongs to them. That they remember those who wander too far, who step where they shouldn't. And that once they notice you, once they decide you're worth their attention, they never forget. Some believe these creatures are the old spirits of the land, guardians of a time before men carved roads and built homes. Others insist they are something far worse, something that feeds, that lures, that waits, that has learned how to mimic us in ways we aren't meant to understand. And then there are those who refuse to speak of it at all, as if acknowledging it, even in passing, is enough to draw its gaze. But here's the truth, the one that lingers in the cold hush of the mountain air, in the whisper of leaves shifting under no wind. Something is out there, something that knows these hills better than we do, something that watches, something that waits. And for those unlucky enough to cross its path, it remembers the taste of us. They stretch for over 2,000 miles, an ancient spine of rock and wilderness cutting through the eastern United States, the Appalachian Mountains, a place older than recorded time, carved by wind and rain long before the first footprints ever marked its soil. And yet, for all the maps, for all the trails carved into its vastness, there are still places where no man has set foot. Valleys untouched by time, peaks shrouded in mist, deep hollows where sunlight barely reaches. The forest is thick here, tangled and layered, stretching farther than the eye can see. It is a wilderness that does not care for our presence. It does not welcome, nor does it warn. But the people who have lived here for generations, they understand, they respect the mountains, the rivers, the silence, and they know there are things in these woods that do not belong to us, things that walk between the trees, unseen yet ever present. Ask any old-timer from these hills, and they'll tell you about the stories. Not the ones written in books, but the ones passed down in hushed voices, in the flickering glow of firelight. Stories of something lurking just beyond sight, something ancient, something hungry. In a small, nearly forgotten town nestled deep in the backwoods, the legend is spoken of in whispers. A curse, they call it, an old debt unpaid. Every full moon, another soul vanishes. No signs of struggle, no tracks to follow. Just an empty house, a cold bed, a name added to the long list of those who walked into the night and never came back. The townfolk don't search, they don't ask questions, because they already know. It is not a question of where they have gone. It is a question of what has taken them. Then there is the diary, found in an abandoned cabin, miles from any road, tucked beneath a rotting floorboard. The ink is smudged in places, the pages warped by damp air, but the words remain. Day 1. The woods feel different. It's too quiet. No birds, no crickets. Just my own breath. Something isn't right. Day 3. I saw it today. A shape between the trees. Watching. It moved when I moved, but when I stopped, it didn't. It just stood there. Day 6. I hear them at night. Footsteps circling the cabin. Sometimes a voice calling my name, but it's wrong. The way it stretches the vowels, the way it lingers too long on the last syllable. It sounds like my father, but my father's been dead for 10 years. Day 9. I'm not alone in this cabin. I wake up to the door open even though I know I locked it. Something is coming inside. The diary ends there. No final entry, no explanation, just empty pages stretching into nothingness. Whoever wrote those words, they were never seen again. And so, the question remains, would you dare step into this darkness? Would you dare listen to the whispers in the trees? Would you dare stare into the unknown and hope that it doesn't stare back? The first signs are always small, almost easy to ignore. A missing dog, a fence post split in half, a shadow glimpsed from the corner of an eye, gone the moment you turn to look. Then, it escalates. Hunters, experienced ones, men who have walked these trails since childhood, vanish without explanation. No overturned gear, no sign of struggle, One moment, their voices crackle through the radio, their laughter drifting through the trees. The next, silence. Then, the livestock. Horses found trembling in their stalls, eyes rolling wildly, foam dripping from their mouths, as if they had seen something no animal should ever see. Cattle discovered in the early hours of morning, their bodies torn open, not as if attacked by wolves or bears, but as if something had peeled them apart with impossible precision. No blood at the scene, no tracks leading away, just the carcass, hollow, emptied, and yet, somehow, the air remains still. Too still. Then came the transmission. A park ranger stationed at a remote outpost remembers the call vividly. A lost camper, panicked, breathless, his voice shaking with something beyond fear, something deeper. I don't know where I am. I was on the trail. I was on the goddamn trail. But I turned around and it's gone. It's just gone. The trees, they weren't like this before. The ranger tried to calm him, asked him to describe his surroundings. But his words were frantic, broken, his breath coming in uneven gasps. There's something out here with me. I keep hearing footsteps, but it's not walking. It's moving wrong, too fast, and it knows my name. The radio crackled. The ranger asked him to repeat himself. A long silence. Then, in a whisper, "It's right behind me." They searched for days, brought in dogs, helicopters, not a trace. The only thing they found was his backpack, sitting upright in the middle of a clearing, as if someone had carefully placed it there. Everything inside was untouched. The food, the flashlight, the folded map. But the radio? Smashed. Not dropped. Not damaged by weather or animals. Deliberately, meticulously crushed, as if someone or something had wanted to make sure he couldn't call for help again. Then, there's the drawing. Found tacked to the wall of a one-room schoolhouse in a dying town, where the population has dwindled to almost nothing. The children don't play outside after dark here. The parents don't let them. The drawing is done in waxy crayon, the kind handed out to restless children with too much imagination. It shows a figure, impossibly tall, its limbs long and twisted, its eyes nothing but deep black circles. No mouth, no nose, just empty voids staring out from the paper. Next to it, a stick-figure child, tiny in comparison, a crude smile drawn onto its face. A red line connects them, hand in hand. A teacher asked the little girl who she had drawn. "My friend," she said, swinging her feet from beneath her desk. "He comes to my window at night." The teacher smiled, indulging the story like any adult would. "Does he say anything?" The girl's smile faded. "He doesn't have to." And then, there is the old man, a hermit, a man who has lived alone in the mountains longer than most have been alive. His cabin is miles from the nearest road, the kind of place you don't find unless you're looking for it, or unless something leads you there. A journalist once visited him, eager to collect Appalachian folklore, stories passed down through generations. She expected ghost tales, myths, maybe a superstition or two. What she got was something else. The old man sat by his fire, eyes fixed on the crackling wood, his hands steady, despite his age. He spoke in a slow, measured voice, as if each word had weight. "You ever hear the woods go quiet?" She nodded. Everyone had. "That ain't the woods being peaceful, darlin'. That's the woods listening." The journalist laughed, asked him if he believed in the stories. The old man didn't smile. "I don't believe in M. I know 'em." He tapped his temple with a calloused finger. "I seen things. Things that walk upright but ain't men. Things that call your name in voices that don't belong to 'em. Things that take what they want, when they want." She pressed him for details. He leaned in, the firelight casting deep shadows across his face. There's an old rule in these hills. If you see something in the trees, something that don't belong, no, you didn't. If you hear something call your name from the dark, no, you didn't. And if you wake up to your door wide open, the wind whispering through, but you know for damn sure you locked it tight. His voice dropped to a whisper. You get up, you close it, and you don't look outside. And so, the question lingers. Are these just stories, shadows cast by overactive minds? Or is there something more? Something lurking just beyond the edges of what we understand, watching, waiting? Because out here, in the deepest part of the mountains, where the trees grow older than memory, some doors, once opened, can never be shut. They're watching. At first, it's just a feeling, the weight of unseen eyes pressing into your back as you walk the trail, the kind of sensation that makes the hairs on your arms rise, that tightens your throat even when there's no reason to be afraid. And yet, every instinct screams, you are not alone. Then you see them, figures lurking at the edge of the trees. At first, you think it's just a trick of the shadows, a strange shape where the branches twist together, but then it moves. Not like a person, not like an animal, but something in between. Too tall, too thin, limbs too long, joints bending in ways they shouldn't. It watches without blinking, eyes like hollow pits that reflect the moonlight. And when you finally gather the courage to look away, it's gone. The imitations come next. It starts with whispers, faint, drifting through the trees, a voice you recognize, your brother, your mother, your best friend. Come here, it says. The cadence is perfect, the tone familiar. But something is wrong. It stretches the vowels too long, lingers too much on the last syllable, like a recording played just a fraction too slow. And then you realize, your brother isn't here. Your mother isn't here. You are alone. Some who have heard it say it follows them home. That even after they've left the woods behind, they wake in the dead of night to hear their own name drifting through the air, spoken in a voice that should not exist. But by then, it's too late. For those who dare venture deeper, the forest itself begins to change. The trees shift, their branches stretch, twist, pulse, as if breathing. Leaves flutter without wind, shivering like something beneath them is moving. The ground is soft, damp, like flesh instead of earth. Then comes the smell, a rancid, coppery scent, thick, wet, sticking to the back of the throat. The smell of something old, something rotten, something that has been dead far too long yet refuses to rest. That's when they know. They've gone too far. And the things in the dark, they know it too. One night, a group of cryptid hunters set up cameras deep in the mountains, determined to capture proof of what lurked in the shadows. Most of what they recorded was ordinary. The slow sway of trees, the shifting mist, the occasional deer wandering into frame. But at exactly 3:12 a.m., the feed flickered. For less than a second, the camera caught something, 2 pinpricks of light, glowing eyes staring from the tree line. They did not blink. They did not shift. They just watched, and then they moved. A blur of motion. Faster than the eye could track. One frame they were there, the next, gone. But the most disturbing part? The eyes weren't just watching the trees. They were watching the camera. They knew they were being seen, and for the ones who stare back too long, the darkness stares right back. It always begins the same way. A shape at the edge of the trees, too tall, too thin, standing just beyond the reach of the light, close enough to see, but not enough to understand. At first, You think it's a trick of the eyes, the way the branches tangle together, the way the night plays with your mind. But then, it moves. Not like an animal, not like a man, but something between, something wrong. They call them watchers. They do not hunt, they do not chase, they wait, standing in the same place for hours, for days, for as long as it takes. Their heads tilted just slightly, as if listening, as if waiting for you to make the mistake of stepping closer. And then, the voices start. Is that you? It's someone you know, a loved one, a friend. Their tone is almost right, almost perfect. But the way they say it, the way they stretch the syllables just a little too long, the way the words echo where they shouldn't, it's wrong. Some have run, most have, and some have answered back. Those who do never tell their stories because they are never seen again. It is not just the things in the dark that people fear, it is the forest itself. You walk a trail, sure of your steps, sure of the way back. And then, suddenly, the path is gone. The trees are different, taller, their trunks twisted, gnarled. Their roots seem to move, like veins pulsing beneath flesh. You tell yourself it's in your head. You tell yourself you're just tired. Until the smell hits you. A rancid, coppery scent, like pennies left to rust in the sun, like something decayed, like something that had once been alive but shouldn't be anymore. Some who have smelled it say it clings to them, that even after they escape, even after they return home, the scent lingers in their hair, beneath their nails, inside their skin, as if something followed them, as if something left its mark. And then there's the footage. A group of cryptid hunters armed with night vision cameras set out into the mountains, hoping for proof. They set up equipment, scanned the trees, laughed off the old stories. Until 3:12 a.m., the feed flickered, and for less than a second, a pair of glowing eyes stared from the darkness, not moving, not blinking, just watching. Then, gone. But the most disturbing part? The eyes weren't just watching the trees. They were watching the camera. They knew they were being seen, and for those who see them too long. The darkness stares right back. There is a moment, a single breath in time, when you realize you have gone too far. By then, it is already too late. The forest feels different, heavier. The air presses against your skin, thick and damp, like a second layer you cannot shed. The trees stretch taller than you remember, their gnarled branches curling overhead, blocking out the sky. And then you see it. A campsite. At first glance, it looks like any other. A few tents pitched in a small clearing, a smoldering fire pit, the scattered remnants of a meal left unfinished. But something is wrong. The tents are slashed open from the inside, not torn, ripped, like something had tried to escape. Sleeping bags lie abandoned, unzipped, twisted, tangled, as if people had crawled from them in a frenzy. A single hiking boot sits upright by the fire pit, its laces neatly tied. But its owner is gone, gone without a trace. And then you see the blood. It is not a lot, not a gory mess, just drops, small, deliberate, leading away from the camp, disappearing into the trees, not smeared, not dragged, as if someone had walked away, bleeding. Then the realization sinks in. The fire is still warm. Whoever was here. They were here recently. And yet, the only thing left behind is you. Then time itself begins to slip. You glance at your watch. The hands have stopped moving. You check your phone. The screen glitches, flickering between the lock screen and static. No service. No signal. Then, something shifts. The trees feel closer. The shadows stretch just a little too long. You look at your footprints in the dirt, and they are facing the wrong direction, as if you have been walking backwards, as if something has been leading you deeper. It's watching. It's watching. You do not turn around. You cannot turn around. Every nerve in your body screams that if you do, if you look, you will see something you were never meant to see. A presence looms behind you, tall, too tall. Its breath is steady, controlled. It does not attack, it does not move. It simply waits, waiting for you to make the mistake, waiting for you to look. Run. And that is when you finally break. You run. And the worst part? The worst part is that the footsteps behind you, they do not chase, they do not fade, they match, step for step, breath for breath, as if they have always been with you, as if they have always known you. And as the trees twist, as the path bends, as the world itself seems to fold in on itself, you begin to wonder, did you ever really leave the trail? Did you ever really come here alone? Or have they been leading you here all along? You don't stop. You can't stop. Branches claw at your skin, tear at your clothes, but you don't feel it. Your lungs burn, your legs scream, but you don't care. Because you know, if you slow down, even for a second, you will never leave these woods. The forest bends around you, shifting, twisting, warping. The path you swore was straight now coils like a serpent. Your own footprints crisscross, loop back on themselves. Everywhere you turn, you see them. Figures, tall, still, too thin, too silent, not chasing, just watching, waiting. Then, a break in the trees, a road, asphalt glistening under the moonlight. Somehow, you've made it out. Your legs nearly give out as you stumble forward. The headlights of a passing truck catch your form, honk, blasting through the night as the driver swerves. But you don't care. You survived. And up ahead, just beyond the bend, a diner. Neon lights flickering. An old sign reading, Rosie's 24-hour cafe. A warm glow spills from the windows, the low murmur of conversation drifting through the air. You're safe. At least, that's what you tell yourself. Inside, it's almost too normal. Red vinyl booths. A counter lined with chrome stools. A waitress with tired eyes pouring coffee. A cook flipping pancakes on the griddle. No one looks up as you stumble in. No one reacts to the torn clothes, the dirt-streaked skin, the sheer panic still carved into your face. It's as if they don't see you. You slide into a booth, hands trembling as you reach for the menu. Your vision blurs. The letters shift. The words rearrange. For a second, just a second, you swear the paper breathes beneath your fingertips. You shake it off. Just the adrenaline, just exhaustion. Then, the newspaper catches your eye, folded neatly by the napkin holder. Bold print across the top. A small-town headline. And the date. It's wrong. Not just a day off. Not just a typo. Years. Decades. According to this paper, it isn't 2025. It's 1973. You swallow hard. Look around. The waitress is watching you now. Eyes dark, sunken, lips pressed too tight. She steps forward, coffee pot in hand, and mutters under her breath. You were never supposed to leave. The air in the diner changes. The conversations die. Forks freeze halfway to mouths. The cook stops flipping pancakes. His spatula hovers over the griddle, unmoving. Every single head turns toward you in unison. No blinking, no breathing, just staring. And then, slowly, they smile, all at once. Too wide, too perfect, too wrong. You should have stayed in the trees. You are frozen. The people, if they can even be called that, are still smiling. That too wide, too perfect, too wrong smile. And then, everything is normal again. The waitress is pouring coffee. The cook is back at the griddle, flipping pancakes. A trucker slouches at the counter, stirring sugar into his cup. As if nothing had happened. As if they had never turned. as if they had never looked at you. You tell yourself it was in your head, that you imagined it, that you're just tired. But then, you look down. There are wet footprints on the black and white checkered tile, your footprints, but you haven't moved, and they're facing the wrong way. You push back from the booth, the vinyl squeaking beneath your shaking hands. The fluorescent lights flicker, humming low and unsteady. Your eyes flicker to the mirrored wall behind the counter. At first, you see nothing unusual, just yourself. Eyes bloodshot, skin pale. But then, your reflection blinks, too slow, out of sync, not with you, not at the same time, like something waiting, like something just realizing you can see it, and then, a child's voice. High, faint, close. Don't turn around. The diner is still full. The trucker is sipping his coffee. The waitress is jotting down an order, but suddenly, you feel alone. Like none of them are really there, like they never were. And then, the voice again. You have to go back. Total darkness. And from that darkness, a shuffle of feet. Slow, deliberate, right behind you. In the darkness, everything changes. You can feel it before you see it. The air turns cold, not just chilly, but frozen, biting, like the breath of something ancient, something that has never known warmth. The hairs on the back of your neck rise. Your heart starts to pound, but it's not the same rhythm. It's uneven, it's wrong. You can hear it now, the faintest scraping sound, like bone on bone, something stretching across the floor. You move instinctively to stand, but you can't. Your legs won't obey, they're frozen. Your body is frozen. You dare not turn around, but you feel it. The presence. Something that should not be there. And then, the breathe. In and out. Slow, heavy, labored. It is too loud. The sound rattles your bones. You can feel it in your chest, in the pit of your stomach, as though it's coming from inside you. The world around you warps. The edges of your vision begin to blur, like you're looking through water, distorted, unfocused. And then, they appear. Not all at once, not in unison, but one by one. The human eaters. Their bodies are twisted, like things that were never meant to be. Gaunt, frail. The skin is stretched too tight, as if it was never made to hold the bones beneath. Their limbs are long, impossibly thin, and as they move, they creak, crack, like old, dry wood breaking under pressure. Their faces, they don't look like faces at all. Their eyes are black, hollow pits, empty, their mouths wide, too wide, far wider than anything natural, and when they open them, the teeth are long, too long, sharper than a predator's. The teeth wrap around like a twisted grin, curving inwards toward the back of their throat. They don't just hunt, they consume. Every part of you, mind, body, soul. And as they move closer, you feel your skin crawl, your heart clench. Because they don't move like animals. They move like something with purpose. Silent, stealthy, predatory. But their breath is the only sound you can hear. It's deafening, loud. It fills the air around you, close enough to make your teeth rattle, close enough to shake the walls. It's a sound that seems to vibrate through your entire body. As they circle around you, you see them for what they truly are. The townspeople, the waitress, the trucker. None of them are real. Or rather, none of them are human. Their eyes, those same dead, empty eyes, are fixed on you. But there's nothing there. No recognition, no empathy. Just the same eerie, hollow stare. And the realization hits you, heavy and cold. The terror you felt in the woods, it was never the trees that haunted you. It was them. They have been waiting. The waitress, her smile too wide, too perfect. The trucker, who never spoke, just stared into his coffee. The cook, who stood so still, too still. None of them ever left. They were never human. They were always something else. And that's when you realize you were never meant to escape. Not from the woods, not from the town, and certainly not from them. You should have stayed in the trees. You don't move. You can't. Because now, more than ever before, you understand. You understand that what you've seen, what you've felt, it was only the beginning. Run. That single word echoes in your mind, sharp and clear. But it's not your voice. It's theirs. It doesn't matter. Your heart races as the cold, metallic stench of the creatures fills the diner. You can feel their presence closing in around you, their footsteps soft but unrelenting. The shadows stretch unnaturally along the walls, bending, contorting, as though even the dark itself is trying to swallow you whole. You don't even think. You just move. Your legs pump, pushing you forward, but you can barely feel the ground beneath your feet. The diner around you warps. Tables and chairs blur as if they're being pulled away, like the room itself is shifting, closing in on you. The flickering neon lights outside cast terrifying, distorted shadows that seem to stretch and crawl across the walls, lashing out like fingers in the dark. The exit is just ahead, but it's not enough. The door won't open. You pull at the handle, but it's as if the very air has solidified, freezing it in place. Help. The voice is faint, too faint. You turn to look, but there's nothing behind you. Nothing but the stillness and shadows, waiting. But then, help, please. It's your own voice, but it's wrong. It's distorted, too soft, too pleading. They're mimicking you, luring you. You turn, sprinting now, heart pounding as you tear past the booths, the walls closing in, narrowing the path. The air grows thicker. The silence is no longer empty. It's alive. You reach the kitchen, the back exit. It's there. But just as you push the door open, no, you can hear them now. The creatures are closing in. You hear their breath, loud, wet, heavy, filling the space. The shadows move, and in their wake, you hear the familiar sound of claws dragging against the ground. The scrape is unmistakable. The sickening sound of something that was never meant to be. You try the door again. Pull, twist, slam your body against it, but it won't open. The breathe, it's getting closer. You can almost feel the heat of their breath on your skin. The floor beneath you shakes with every step they take. There's no escape. There is only fight or flight. You don't have time to think. You don't have time to hesitate. You reach for anything. Anything that could be a weapon. The handle of a frying pan, a sharp edge of a broken plate. Your fingers tremble, but you grip them tight. You don't have a choice anymore. There's a sound, a scraping that's louder now, too close. You turn, ready to face the monster head on, but nothing. Just the deep silence. A heavy, suffocating air that hangs over everything. You wait. The seconds stretch out, tense, unbearable. Your pulse is deafening in your ears. Then, the floorboards creak. A shadow flits across the dim light from the broken window, and in that moment, you know, it's here. They're all here. Out of the shadows they come, fast, like something not quite human. The first one, gaunt and stretching, moves with a sickening grin, teeth bared in a grotesque mockery of a smile. The others follow, their bodies contorting in ways that defy all logic, limbs bending at impossible angles. They move in complete, unholy unison, circling you like predators stalking their prey. Their eyes, empty, black pits. And the one that first approaches, its mouth opens wide, impossibly wide. The stench of rot and decay floods the room as its long, sharp teeth glint in the dim light. It whispers, its voice dripping with malice. You can't escape. You could fight. You could die fighting. Or you could run. But you know the truth. There is no running. There is no fighting. There is only survival. What will you choose? You can feel it, the weight of it pressing against you, the air thickening, the ground shifting beneath your feet, as if everything, the trees, the earth, even the sky itself, is closing in. You're not alone anymore. The creatures circle closer. Their eyes are voids, endless black pits that pull at your soul, promising nothing but suffering. Their twisted forms stretch unnaturally, limbs cracking and warping in ways that no creature ever should. But it's not just them, it's the land. The very earth beneath you seems to pulse with an unnatural, insidious rhythm. The trees, once the guardians of the forest, now feel alive, but not in the way they should. They shift, their limbs bending and creaking as though they are made of flesh, not wood. The air itself groans with the weight of ancient secrets, secrets long buried, secrets that no human should ever know. It's then that you realize you've been wrong this entire time. The monsters, the cryptids, they aren't the true horror. No, the true horror isn't the creatures that haunt the night. It's the land itself, the Appalachian mountains, the forest. This place, it's alive. The whispers, the strange occurrences, the creatures, all of it was part of the land's will. The Appalachian cryptids were only the vessels, the tools. The land itself is the predator. Everything, the town, the diner, the creatures, the people, it was always part of the trap. This place is ancient, old beyond comprehension. It was never meant to be escaped. You weren't supposed to survive. You were never meant to make it this far. The cryptids, the twisted townspeople, they were sent to ensure that. To ensure you couldn't escape, couldn't get away. This land has fed on the fear, the terror, the misery of generations. It doesn't just consume the flesh, it consumes the very soul. And those who stumble too far into its grasp, they become part of the land, lost, trapped in its eternal cycle of horror, where time has no meaning. You look down at your hands, trembling, and then you feel it. The air changes. The cold seeps deeper into your bones. The earth beneath you is shifting, not in the way the wind shifts the ground, but as though the land itself is resetting. It feels like something is restarting, as if everything, the monsters, the diner, the terror, the chase, is beginning again. Your vision blurs. The diner fades, the shadows fade, the monsters, the screams, the terror, they all fade, replaced by an overwhelming nothingness. And when your eyes refocus, you're standing in the woods again. The same woods. The same dense, suffocating trees. The same eerie quiet that suffocates your breath. You stumble forward, disoriented, as if you've woken from a bad dream. Except you haven't. You look around, panicked, trying to grasp at the truth, at reality, but it slips through your fingers like smoke. You were just in the diner. You were just facing the monsters. You were just chased. But now, you're back in the forest. And the truth is, it's not over. You can never leave. It's happening again. The same forest, the same air, the same eerie, unnatural silence. But it's not the same. You've been through this already, haven't you? You start running, again, with no clear destination, just an instinctual need to escape. But you know, it's futile. You try to call out, but your voice is swallowed by the wind. The world around you has become a blur, as though everything is happening too fast, too violently, too suddenly. But the monsters are still there. The same shadows, the same creatures, the same fear. Because this is their domain, their hunting ground. The land itself that has trapped you in this endless cycle of torment. The world you thought you could escape is never going to let you go. It will never stop. You stand there, staring at the forest around you, disoriented and exhausted. The trees are still. The shadows long and dark, but they don't feel as menacing now. Maybe it's over. You let out a breath you didn't realize you were holding, feeling a small flicker of hope. The world is still, and for a fleeting moment you let yourself believe that maybe the nightmare is finally behind you. You turn around, ready to leave the woods, but as you do, something catches your eye. A flicker in the corner of your vision. At first, you think it's just the shadows playing tricks on you. The trees bend unnaturally in the wind. The light shifts in strange patterns. But then you feel it, a cold chill creeping up your spine. You turn back to the path, to the clearing you thought you knew so well. The air has changed again, thicker, heavier, as though the very forest is watching you. The same trees, the same terrain, but there's something off. You stop. The tension in your chest starts to return, that familiar sense of dread creeping back into your veins, tightening around your heart. You turn once more, but this time, the world doesn't look quite the same. The clearing is darker. The edges of the forest seem to have closed in, just a little more, as if the land itself is trying to trap you again. You freeze. And then, you hear it. A laugh. Low, dark, hollow. It seems to come from the very air itself, surrounding you, pressing against your skin like the weight of 1,000 eyes. Your breath catches in your throat. It's them. But no, it can't be. You were done. You made it out. You escaped. Yet the laugh lingers, reverberating in your mind like a shadow that refuses to leave. A reminder, a taunt. Did you really think you could escape? The voice is like a cold wind, slithering into your thoughts, wrapping around your mind, squeezing tighter. You clench your fists, willing yourself to wake up, to snap out of it. But the laugh grows louder, more insistent. It's not just in your mind. It's here, in the trees, in the very air you breathe. And then, a strange sensation. Your shadow. You look down, and there, in the dim light, you see it. It moves, on its own. It shouldn't be possible. Your shadow should follow you, should reflect your every move, your every action. But here, in this place, this cursed, twisted place, your shadow seems to have a life of its own. It twists, stretching unnaturally along the forest floor. It jerks, like a puppet with broken strings. It reaches for you, crawling across the ground, its dark form slipping away from your own feet, moving forward, pulling away, like it's trying to lead you somewhere. You step back, your body shaking with disbelief, but the shadow doesn't stop. It pulls, like a tug, at your very soul. It's as though it's trying to drag you back into the darkness, back into the horrors that you thought you'd left behind. You try to run. Your feet slam into the dirt, but the shadow pulls harder, dragging you toward the edge of the woods. You feel a weight, heavy and suffocating, pressing down on your chest. The air is thick with a rancid, coppery stench that twists your stomach. No matter how fast you move, it's too much. The shadow is everywhere. You glance up, your heart hammering in your chest, and in the distance, you see them. The figures, the creatures, the human eaters. They're standing at the tree line, watching you, their faces obscured in darkness. The laughter intensifies, almost deafening now. It's not coming from one voice anymore. It's coming from all of them. The creatures, the trees, the shadows, the land itself. And then, the whisper. A voice from the void, barely audible, but unmistakable. See you soon. It's them again. The land, the curse, the creatures that you cannot escape, the cycle that will never end. You don't know where you are anymore. You don't know what's real. But you know one thing, You're still trapped. Still. Forever. And here we are. The end of the story. Or is it? The creatures, the forest, the cryptids, they've all faded into the shadows, into the unknown, like a nightmare that you can't quite shake. You think it's over. You convince yourself that you've escaped. But there's a question that lingers. A question that you can't answer, no matter how hard you try to push it away. What if it was never meant to end? The land, the Appalachian Mountains, they're old, far older than we realize. Old beyond the time of men. Old in ways that our minds can't begin to fathom. And in that darkness, something ancient lives, something that has always been there, something that has watched from the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. You saw the creatures. You saw them lurking in the trees, their faces twisted and grotesque, their eyes cold and empty. You ran, you fought, you thought you could break free. But every time, you woke up again, back in the woods, back in the nightmare. And now you're left with a haunting realization. What if the monsters were never just in the woods? What if they were never just flesh and bone? What if they were always there, right in front of you, in plain sight? As you sit here now, reflecting on everything you've been through, there's a creeping sensation in the pit of your stomach, a gnawing feeling that something's been missed, something you didn't see. For a moment, you're forced to confront an unsettling thought. What if the monster had always been there, even before the horror began? What if the creatures were never just born from the forest's darkness? What if they were there, hidden in plain sight? It's easy to think that the terror began when the cryptids first emerged from the woods, that the nightmare began when the hunters disappeared, when the eyes glowed from the tree line. But what if that wasn't the case? What if the land, the forest, the town, the people were all part of something much bigger? What if, from the very beginning, the Appalachian Mountains had already claimed you? What if, in that moment, when you first crossed into its territory, you were already part of its trap, unknowingly, inevitably? Could it be possible? Could the human eaters, the cryptids, be more than just creatures of hunger? Could they be manifestations of the land itself, living, breathing, feeding off the very fear and despair of those who enter? What if the monsters weren't just creatures, but the very heart of the Appalachian Mountains, the will of the land to claim anyone who dares step foot on it? And then there's the question that echoes above all others, the question that haunts you even as you try to push it away. Did anyone ever really escape? You think of the survivor, of how they ran, how they screamed for help, how they finally found the diner, only to realize something was horribly wrong. The town, the people, the year. But then, you remember something important. They weren't the first. Countless others have come before them, lost in the woods, disappearing into the abyss of the mountains, never to be seen again. Those who were once just stories, whispers on the wind, become something darker once they step too far into the Appalachian grip. They become lost. What if the diner, the town, wasn't a place to escape? What if it was just another part of the trap, designed to lull you into a false sense of safety, to make you think you're out of harm's way, when in reality, you're already trapped? The truth, the horror, is this. The real question isn't whether or not you'll escape. The real question is, did you ever really leave? And then, something truly terrifying happens. You see it. A photograph. A photo from before it all started. It's a group picture. A moment frozen in time. There's a family in the photo, smiling, unaware of the horrors to come. But there's something wrong. Something off about it. You zoom in, your heart pounding in your chest. The people, they look normal. They look human. But in the corner of the picture, just barely in the edge of the frame, you see it. A pair of glowing eyes, not a trick of the light, not a shadow, but something dark and unnatural, something watching, waiting, lurking in the background. And then, as you look closer, you realize those eyes are watching you. The photo was taken long before the horrors began, before the disappearances, before the cryptids emerged from the shadows, before you stepped into the woods. But those eyes were already there, always watching, always waiting, always ready. The questions remain unanswered, and the cycle continues. You've made it this far, haven't you? You've been through the nightmare, felt the terror, the dread, the suffocating weight of the forest, of those creatures that lurk just beyond the edges of your vision, waiting for the moment when the veil is lifted and you're forced to confront the unimaginable. But now you're standing at the crossroads of something far darker than any monster. You've journeyed into the heart of it, the Appalachian Mountains, and whether you're ready or not, you know the truth. This wasn't just a story. This wasn't some fleeting nightmare meant to fade away in the light of day. No, this was a warning, a glimpse into something ancient, something that has always been there. It has watched, it has waited, and it has claimed more lives than anyone could ever count. You thought you could escape. You thought it was over, didn't you? But now that you've seen the truth, now that you've seen how deep the shadows go, how long the cycle stretches, you can't look away. You can't deny it. This place, these woods, they never let you go. So, I ask you, what happened next? What do you think happened to the survivors? Was it truly an escape? Or are they just another piece in the puzzle? Another soul lost to the grip of the Appalachian curse? What about the creatures? Were they the land itself, or were they something more? Something that has been waiting for eons? Something we don't even understand? What is the truth behind the human eaters? Are they just cryptids that wander the woods, or are they something much, much darker? Something that follows you long after you think you've outrun it? But you've made it this far. You've survived. You've seen things that no one should see, heard whispers in the woods that are never meant for human ears. Now the question is, what will you do with the truth? Will you share it? Will you spread the word and warn others? Or will you keep it buried deep inside, hidden away, trying to convince yourself that it's just a story, a nightmare that will fade in time? There's a darkness here that goes beyond mere monsters. It's in the land itself, the trees, the whispers, the eyes that follow you, even when you think you're safe. Once you've seen it, once you know it's real, there's no turning back. So I ask you, viewer, what do you believe happened? What do you think happened to the ones who didn't make it out? Were they consumed by the cryptids? Or perhaps did they become something else entirely? Something darker? Something that walks between the living and the dead? You've seen the signs. You've seen the photographs, the whispers, the growing terror. And now you have to make the choice. What happened next? What is the truth, deep down, where the light can't reach? Comment your theory. Share what you believe. Because there's no doubt, not in my mind, that you, like everyone who's ever set foot on that land, are part of the story now. The creatures? They're still out there, waiting. The land? It's still hungry. And the cycle? It doesn't stop. It can't. Like and subscribe, if you dare. See you in the woods.